Okay, so I'm going to be making my tofu scramble, and here I have my extra firm tofu. So the first thing you're going to want to do is get a knife or something and cut the tofu package so that the liquid doesn't get all over the place. Do it in the sink. Just cut it like that, and I kind of drain it out before I open it all the way. Then you can pull it out of the package, and it's just a block, just like that. Because it's firm, there's not too much liquid in it. I leave the liquid in there because I'm not using a whole lot of liquid in the actual recipe. So I'm going to just put that here for now. And then these are some of the staple things I use to make the tofu scramble. I've got coconut oil. I just use a little bit of that in the bottom of the pan. It does not add a coconut flavor, so that's good. The next very important ingredient is turmeric because it colors it and it's just really good for you in lots of different ways. And then I use nutritional yeast. I use about a little scoop about that big, and I just sprinkle it on top. I obviously get it in the bulk section. That's why it's in a bag like this, and we probably need to get some more. Then cumin I discovered actually adds a really nice flavor to this. Then salt and pepper I use as well. A good quality salt is always best rather than, you know, just plain old regular salt. And then in here we had a little bit of black salt. I have the tiniest amount left that we're going to use. Black salt's actually really interesting. It's an Indian spice that is salt. If you use too much at all, it's going to add an extremely salty flavor. But it actually makes the food smell like eggs. So if you really love, you know, eggs, then that's a good replacement. And then these are just some random things I actually put just for fun because I love dill. Mustard I throw in there, mustard seed, just a little bit. This is the ground one. And then some smoked paprika. I don't use a ton of any of these, just enough to kind of add my own unique flavor. And then these are some of the things I'm going to put in there today as fresh veggies. I've got green onion, which I always put. Tomato is a new one for me. And then red onion, I normally use yellow onion. So red onion's a little bit different for me. I hope it turns out good. Then I've got some coconut milk over here just in case I need to add some liquid to it. I'll use the coconut milk. It's unsweetened and there's no added flavor. So if you want something more mild that doesn't have a coconut kind of hint of taste, then using soy, rice, almond, any of those types of milks will be fine. I've got my bread here because I'm going to make it into a sandwich. So for the sandwich, I like using some ketchup, some buffalo sauce, and these, Follow Your Heart Gourmet Shreds, the cheddar flavor. This is the second time I've used these and I love them. That's why I keep buying them. And what's also about these is that they are gluten-free and soy-free, and they melt amazingly. It literally tastes so good. Non-GMO too. So I'm going to use just some deli slices. I have a slice of ham slice, you know, deli slices. They are not soy-free. They do have some soy in them. So if you're trying to stay away from soy, you know, there are other options. Then in the pan, I melted some coconut oil. It's all melted up now. So in the next part of the video, I'm going to be showing you how I put it all together. I've got some melted coconut oil in here already. I used about a half teaspoon. You don't want to use a lot. Honestly, this is probably even more than I'll need. Another thing that I want to note is that I'm using ceramic pans. And ceramic is great because these ones are non-stick, but the typical non-stick Teflon or whatever it's called, it's like the black non-stick, is actually extremely toxic. If you want to do some research on it, you'll find out that it's really not great for our health or our respiratory systems or anything. And especially when it starts getting scraped off, when you see the color of the pan underneath the black and it's getting scraped up, that's going into your food and then going into your system. So I use ceramic pans just to avoid all that. These ones are a little bit burnt because I've had them for a while, but still they work great and they're great for non-stick too, so they have the same effect. They are definitely worth the money. So I have the whole block of tofu. Some people will take the end of it and like crumble it like this and do hand crumbling like that. Obviously it's really messy to do it like that, you can see. So what I normally do is just take a fork and kind of squish it down like this, and you just squish it until it's the consistency you like of egg. It's not going to cook down too much, so just keep that in mind. A whole block of tofu is a lot of food. I can eat it, but at the end I'm extremely full. So you could do half of the block of tofu, or you could save it for later because it honestly reheats really well. It heats up really well. I don't think eggs do that, so this is really cool because you can just store it in a regular container and just throw it back on the stove and heat it up. So I try not to leave any huge chunks because you really want the flavor to get in there. So, you know, pieces that are just general, normal size for egg. Don't want any giant chunks in there. So after you're done squishing it up in the pan, I season it. I don't measure my seasonings, but I'll show you how I kind of figure out what I want to put in there. The first thing I always put is the turmeric. Got it here. It's great for color. You just sprinkle it on the top. This is how I do it. I don't measure, so I just kind of coat the top with a layer of it. So turmeric's super good for you. You can't, I mean, I'm sure you could taste the flavor of it, you know, with the tofu, but it doesn't add a weird flavor, so it's actually pretty good. Then I recently started adding cumin, which I find to be really tasty with this. So I do a little bit less, but I do just sprinkle it kind of on the top. Then a bit of salt. Don't want to go crazy, you know, you can use as much or as little as you want. Some nice pepper. Fresh ground pepper is good. Any pepper you want though. I just do a little bit to taste. Then the next most important ingredient is the nutritional yeast. This is just regular nutritional yeast you'll find in your bulk section. There is a special organic version of nutritional yeast, but we don't use this for anything but like special raw food. So this is very expensive. This is about a $9 bottle worth right here. And you use so much of it. I mean, this is what I'm using in this recipe. I mean, that would only make me like 3 tofu scrambles. So I use the one in the bulk section. It's $10 a pound. The package I got probably cost maybe $2, and it's plenty to last for days. So I just sprinkle that on top. You can never have too much. It adds a really nice kind of cheesy flavor to things, and with the eggs, it just really brings it all together. It's very tasty. You smell it. It's got a nice scent to it, a nice savory, cheesy kind of scent. And then I just try to coat the top. I didn't use all of it. I might add more later depending on it, but just a good coating on the top. The pan's on like a low to medium heat right now. And then I'm just going to stir in all the ingredients. Okay, so you'll see that it turns a nice yellow color, very reminiscent of eggs. And it'll stay that nice yellow color too. So, and if you want it to be more yellow, you can add more turmeric. But yeah, I just stir it till it's all mixed in, and it's already a really nice consistency. Honestly, if you just heat it up like this, you got a scrambled egg. But I like to add my other little seasonings, so I'll just throw in a little bit of dill, just because I've been obsessed with the taste of dill recently. Probably not a normal thing you add to a scramble. And then I've got mustard seed powder. I don't add a ton of that. It's kind of hard to get out of there. Probably a good thing. And then some smoked paprika. I like this because it's got a smoky flavor to things. It's not spicy or anything. It's very just smoky, reminiscent of like barbecue chips or something. I just put a little bit of that in there to give it sort of a smoky flavor. And then I'll just stir that in. You can add any seasonings you want. Most people will probably use a garlic powder, which would be really good. I just am out of garlic powder. I'm out of a lot of seasonings, so I'm just using what I have. But you can make these taste any way you want. That's what's so awesome about it. Because the tofu really soaks in the flavor of whatever you put in there, so it really just is packed with flavor. I'm going to add the black salt now. I have the tiniest amount in here, but I think it's just enough to probably give it that little bit of egg scent. And like the moment you put it in there, if you put in enough, you'll really smell the egg scent. It's pretty interesting stuff. Now I'm going to add my fresh vegetable. I'm going to put the onion. I usually use yellow onion. This is my red onion. I don't cook it beforehand because I think it, you know, really absorbs the flavors when it's cooked with this, and it doesn't overcook when it's in here. I've never added tomato either, so tomato's new for me. Normally you could use like a spinach, mushroom, onion, any kind of thing you would like in a scramble or an omelet. And the green onions I save for last so they don't cook down too much. So I'll just stir that all in. Add some nice color there. I wish I had some spinach because I'd give it a really nice pop of color. If you're adding spinach, don't add it till it's close to being done because it'll just wilt to like a squishy mess otherwise. And you like it to be fresh and tasty. Mushrooms, if you're adding mushrooms, I would probably cook those a tiny bit before you put them in here, but it just depends on your preference. Alright, so now that everything is all mixed in, I'm to the point where I'm just going to let it simmer for a little while. I've got it on a 4, low being 0, high being 10, so I've got it on a sort of medium lowish heat. I just don't want it to overcook. Tofu is really great because with this pan, at least with the oil and everything, it will not stick to the pan whatsoever. Your pan might turn a little yellow from the turmeric, but besides that, it doesn't stick, so you can leave it simmering. And we'll come back in a few minutes and I'll show you what it looks like when it's cooked down a bit. Alright, so it's been on here for maybe, I don't know, 5 minutes or so. You can see it's gotten a little more egg-like. It definitely smells really good. Looks like the onions have absorbed a lot of flavor. Yeah, this looks good. I mean, you can eat it like this. You can let it cook longer if you want to, but honestly, that's plenty of time. And honestly, it looks like it has a pretty good kind of eggy consistency. So I'm not going to add any milk or anything to this. So I've got some toast on the stove here with some coconut oil. You can use vegan butter or anything you want. You could even just put it in the toaster and not cook it like this. But what I think I'm going to do is take the shreds and put them on the portion of the tofu scramble that I'd like to, you know, have the shreds on. And then I'm going to take a piece of the smart slices and put it on the pan next to the tofu so that it'll cook down a little bit. So I will show you what that all looks like in a second here. Okay, so this is the portion of the tofu scramble that I've melted some of the Follow Your Heart cheddar slices on. Then that's the one piece of the soy ham that I cooked up. I just heated it up a little bit. It sticks to the pan a little bit, so I would suggest if you're using that to use a tiny bit of oil or something like that. But as you can see, this is a ton of tofu scramble. I mean, that would probably be the equivalent of like 10 eggs or something like that. So obviously, you know, especially if you're making a sandwich out of it, to go easy on the tofu, maybe make half of a block or a quarter of a block, depending on how much eggs you want. If you want 2 eggs, maybe a quarter of a block would be good. But if you're using it as your main meal like I am right now, then maybe half a block. I just cooked it all up at once because I just, you know, will eat it throughout the day. So, and I've got my toast here, and I'm going to put my ketchup and hot sauce on there because I love hot sauce. And then I'm going to put the sandwich together and I'll show you the finished product. Okay, so this is basically the finished product. I just piled on the cheese. I scooped the cheesy eggs with a spatula, a non-slotted spatula, just to try to get all of the cheese to stay together. Then I put my little piece of ham down underneath there, some more tofu scramble, and some buffalo sauce on top. I used about half the amount of tofu that I actually made, but like I said, I usually eat it throughout the day, or you can save it and eat it the next day. It saves really well.